Okay, so once again, not really expected, not really expecting to make this video. Um, that seems to be the key to this formula here for posting every day. It's just kind of just blindside myself, trick myself, and go, oh, maybe I'm not going to make one today, and then just next thing you know, whip out the camera. Um, we are outside this time. I strongly prefer being outside. I really like nature. um, I have gone through a lot of things in my life, much like everyone else on this planet, of course. And I just thought I'd share a little thing I thought about yesterday on the way home from work. Now, what happens when a lot of people run into hardships, run into strife, run into bumps in the road, that sort of thing, is they'll kind of self destruct a little bit. Oh, I had a bad day at work. Let me go get some McDonald's. Let me go get some Wendy's. Let me, you know, let me go have 4 or 5 beers right before bed. Um, Luckily, I kind of just promised myself very early on that I would not be a regular drinker. I'm really happy I made that decision, but if you're the type of person who did, then, we all got our vices. I was really obsessed with vape, um, and not even nicotine. It was weed, and I was a stoner for a good 5 or 6 years of my life there. I just recently quit, just not having it in the house. Um, it's definitely more a psychological thing than a chemical hook sort of thing. Now, of course, you can be dependent on the way weed, the way weed makes you feel. I would say I was really, really, just really onto that hard. Like there was a point in my life where I'd be speaking to my parents and they would say something that kind of stressed me out, and without even thinking, with, without the thought crossing my mind that my parents were right in front of me, I would just reach down and pull out my vape. I never actually hit it in front of them because, I'd realize, oh my god, what am I doing? I just like quickly put it away. They didn't notice whenever I did that. Um, but yeah, very slowly realize you can kind of slowly realize that, oh, this is bad. Like if you're not aware, you can miss those sorts of signs, but luckily I was aware enough to take a look and go, oh, this isn't a good thing. um, but what a lot of people do is they respond to really hard times in their life with exactly that, with just hardships, even more hardships. It's like, oh, I'm oh, my friend just died, or oh, I lost my job, or oh, I've got this really bad tragedy happening in my life. Let me just add drinking on top of it. And I I conceptualized it as breaking yourself even more. Um, a lot of times, what happens when something in life breaks you, because it's gonna break you, like that's just sort of the price of admission for being here, um, is a lot of people just break themselves further. Oh, I lost my job. Let me buy a handle of whiskey and just down it over the course of 2 nights. Or oh, I got I just had a really bad shift. Or oh, my girlfriend broke up with me. Let me get back onto cigarettes. And it's definitely a cope. It's definitely a crutch to kind of, usually it's to replace a crutch that you had in life that you just lost. And it's not worth it. You know, I can say that up, down, left, and right, and a lot of people will kind of just go, "Oh, okay, you're right," and then just do it anyway. Um, the way I visualized it, and the way I think it would really help a lot of people to think about it is whatever happened to you, whatever event happened to you, it broke you. It broke you, let's say it broke you in half if it was really bad. Like I lost a really good friend of mine um, a few years ago. It must be like 4 years ago now. Um, he left for the Navy, and upon hearing this news, I hadn't seen him in a long time, but just hearing the news, it broke me in half, quite frankly. I considered this friend a brother. I will likely go into talking about him more as I go along, but yeah, it broke me in half. And what I decided to do was just be strong for the people who couldn't be in that moment. You know, I had a friend, I had a mutual friend through him. He didn't have a ride. I took him to all the, the wake, the funeral, all of that stuff. I had I was in the house by myself. I was living with my parents at the time, and they left booze in the liquor cabinet. I could have just gone down that road, man, I could have broken myself further. What you don't want to do is break yourself even more. You're already broken in half. That's already a hit to you. And it's not worth it to break yourself even further, to break yourself into quarters or into eighths, and eventually you're just in a million pieces. But it's so sad. You see people do that all the time. One triggering event in their life just sends them right down. And I'm here to say, if you're broken, then just don't break yourself further. Don't don't fall into that trick. That's not if someone in your life if you lost someone in your life, they wouldn't want you to do that. They would very much not want you to do that. I don't know what got me onto weed and what got me so addicted, but it was definitely it definitely overstayed its welcome. I didn't realize how broken of a person I was, how little attention I paid to the day-to-day life that was in front of me. And yeah, you cope with these things almost like you're filling a gap that was left after losing something or after being just lost or broken by life. And you think it's sufficient, but it's not. I'm not gonna sit here and say that my friend's death was the reason I got addicted. As I started long before his death, but it it was definitely something. I wasn't happy. I was working in food service. It was my first job. I couldn't stand the fact that I was basically taken out of my comfort zone and forced to, work in this. I'm not going to say the name of the place, but just this bad place right next to a really bad neighborhood, really bad employees. One of my managers, it's actually a pretty fucked up but funny story. Um, I was sweeping the dining room of this place, and I found a pair of women's underwear, just sitting on the floor. And I was 16 at the time, so I knew this was messed up. I went to my manager, and he told me that he'd give me $5 if I sniffed them. And I was juvenile at the time. I didn't really realize how the scale of how fucked up this was. He was saying this to an underage person, and it was I basically responded to him by saying, listen, if you give me a $5 raise, maybe I'll do it. And because, I was just a juvenile jackass like that. Um, it wasn't really things like that. Like, it doesn't even have to be a vice. Something like a job or a bad person in your life, things like that can just break you. And it's really up to you to put yourself back together again because you can feel so spread out, so like just so just so taken apart by your own life that you don't really know who you are anymore. You can't see the big picture of you anymore. You're so indebted to these certain things. So don't break yourself into a million pieces. And if you find that you're already broken just so much, figure out what's breaking you and figure out how to put yourself back together again. And that's it. Thanks.